Well, hey there, chummer. Let's take a look at Tengen Tetris. Tetris, as you may or may not know, is a dynamic puzzle that seems easy enough. Rotate and flip moving geometric blocks into unbroken rows. When you completely fill up the bottom row, it disappears from the screen and the score rises. When enough rows vanish, the blocks descend faster and faster. Nothing to it, right? Wrong! When you can't find the way to make the pieces fit together and more blocks tumble down to clog your screen, you'll wish you had 10 hands and 10 brains. Should mean you need 10 heads. Warning! Although Tetris may be great food for thought, it is so much fun, it's positively addictive. So don't forget to eat something to fuel your body. Maybe apple pie? So says the description of Tengen's Tetris for the NES, obviously, since this is 365 days of the NES. Released by Tengen. How about that? In 1989. It was also known as Tetris. This is generally considered to be the best NES version of Tetris, though there were several. This is one of the infamous Tengen unlicensed Nintendo games that came in the goofy black cartridges that were kind of sloped on one end, like Gauntlet. Yes, and other games as well. This version of Tetris, it was only briefly released. It was only on the shelf for about a month before Nintendo got it and became the official publisher for the game and made some changes. Now let's talk about Tetris a bit. We all know how to play it, but do you know the history of the Tetris? In 1988, the Soviet Academy of Sciences had a researcher named Alexei Pajitnov. And I'm going to butcher these names because I'm American and I don't have to talk no foreign names right. Alongside Dmitry and Vadim, they developed Tetris out of desire to create a two-player puzzle game. And the game spread commercially amongst computers. Minecraft. Microsoft President Robert Stein, because that's not a Russian name, approached the guys with an offer to distribute Tetris worldwide and secured the rights to license the title, which were in turn granted to Spectrum Holobyte, who I have played other games they have worked on. After seeing the game run on the Atari ST, programmer Ed Log, because that's not a funny name, petitioned Atari Games to release it, to license it, that's the word I was looking for, and they approached Mr. Stein. With the rights secured, Atari Games produced an arcade version of Tetris, and under their Tengen brand name began development to port the title to the NES in May of 1989. Tengen, along with Spectrum Holobyte, later licensed the rights to Hank Rogers on behalf of Nintendo to distribute Tetris in Japan, and Rogers traveled to Moscow to secure permission to distribute Tetris with the Game Boy. Around the same time, Nintendo approached Spectrum Holobyte on the prospects of developing a version of Tetris for the Game Boy, and a representative of Microsoft, Kevin Maxwell, because that's not a funny name, traveled to Russia to secure permission on their behalf. However, because Stein had secured the rights from one of the developers directly and not from the Russian authorities, the USSR's Ministry of Software and Hardware Export stated that the console rights to Tetris had been licensed to nobody, and that Atari Games had only been licensed the rights to produce arcade games with the property. They sent a fax to Maxwell in England with 48 hours to respond. Maxwell, however, was still in Russia at the time and received the fax late, resulting in the license being distributed to Nintendo. In April of 1989, Tengen, who had previously filed an antitrust suit against Nintendo, sued Nintendo again, claiming rights to distribute Tetris on the NES, and Nintendo countersued, citing infringement of trademark. In June of 1989, a month after the release of Tengen's Tetris, a U.S. District Court judge issued an injunction barring Tengen from further distributing the game, and further ordered all existing copies of the game to be destroyed. As a result, 268,000 Tetris cartridges were recalled and destroyed. Did you get all of that? Basically, Tetris. People wanted Tetris. Microsoft gave some help in that situation, as did Spectrum Holobyte. They put it on some arcade things, thought, hey, this is great. Let's put it out on the NES, because that was the big console, the new one at the time, and everybody was jumping on the bandwagon. But because of some patent and license issues, it didn't really work out, and Nintendo said, you can't release your unlicensed games on our system because it's our system and we have the license for it. And Tengen said, screw you, we're going to do it anyway. And then Nintendo said, want to bet? And then the judge said, Nintendo's right. go and burn your house down. Alright, it's not what he said, but you get the idea. Whew. So Tetris became... Wow. By the time the court order for the cease and desist of the Tengen games was issued, there were about 100,000 copies that had actually been sold, and had since become a collector's item. The game is basically noted superior to Nintendo's release, because, well... the Nintendo one didn't have a 2-player mode, and the gameplay wasn't quite as nice. There was some benefit for Tengen because of this, because had the lawsuit not been so big, no one probably would have known too much about Tengen, and this game probably would have just gone by the wayside. However, there is I don't want to call it a movement, we'll call it a populace of gamers, myself included, that thinks as good as this one is, the Game Boy one is still superior. And, you know, you take with that what you get.